Welcome to Mysterious Goings On. I am your host, Alex Greenwood. Thank you for listening. I'm so glad to be back with you. We had a really great response to our last episode featuring Mickelson, fantastic musician. If you haven't heard it yet, it's our last episode. Just check it out. You can find it on iTunes. Shouldn't be any big deal to find it. I really enjoyed talking with Scott Mickelson about his wondrous life, his new album that's coming out later this fall, and just hearing his journey as a Grammy-balloted musician who just played at the Fillmore, by the way, since that conversation. So I hope you'll go back to Chapter 28 and take a listen to that episode. Here we are, Chapter 29, and the world keeps on turning and scary stuff keeps happening. I am dismayed and concerned, a little less so at this point. I'm recording this on September 12th. But I was very concerned about Florida and Key West and the Keys in particular, as I am a kind of a fan of the Florida Keys in particular, but all of Florida. It figures heavily into my fiction, as you know if you or if you read the John Pilate Mysteries, you know that. And in particular, Key West is one of the destinations that John Pilate and his crew, they operate out of for a good many of the books. But Hurricane Irma, on the heels of Hurricane Harvey, which decimated a good chunk of southern Texas and the coast, but Irma, on the heels of that, pretty well dwarfed Harvey, not to diminish the damage that was done there. It was awful. But Florida and the Caribbean got absolutely decimated by this incredible Category 5 hurricane that I believe lasted over 10 days. Just a awesome, and I'm using that word properly, I think, an awesome display of nature's power, and probably a good indication that there is some climate change afoot, considering we had Harvey, Irma, and Jose all at once, basically, or on each other's heels at the very least, and the power and force of these hurricanes is fairly close to unparalleled. Anyway, I'm not really here to get off on a discussion about climate change. I think that the evidence is very clear. If you're not into that, you don't believe that, well, you're going to see, in my opinion, a lot more catastrophic weather events upon us from here on out. And it's simply a matter of science. If you doubt the science of climate change, I would suggest that if you believe the science that tells you a hurricane is coming and forecasts a hurricane and warns you to get out of a hurricane's way or a tornado, get out of the way when the one's coming or get to shelter, I believe you can't have it both ways. You can't accept the science that predicts storms and predicts things and, gives us cures for our disease and all these things, and throw out climate change as if it's some kind of bizarre hoax or conspiracy theory to somehow destroy the fossil fuel industry. That's just ridiculous. We got a problem here, folks, and these hurricanes are pretty indicative of that. But let me hop off the soapbox. I'd like to encourage you to go to the Red Cross and donate to try to help victims in Harvey, in Texas, in that area, as well as the Caribbean and, of course, Florida. I encourage you to donate to the American Red Cross. I like to donate directly kind of the horse's mouth. I believe the Red Cross is the best method of securing my donation to make sure that it gets to the people who need it. Nothing against J.J. Watt and people like that who are also raising money. I'm sure they're doing a great job, but I'm just cutting out the middleman, going directly to Red Cross, the people who I believe are the best equipped to handle those donations and make sure everything goes well with that. So I encourage you, I'll put a link in the show notes, I encourage you to go to the Red Cross and donate $5, $10, whatever you are moved to give to try to help people out. I know as a tornado survivor, a couple of really bad ones, including that really awful one, it was an F5 at the time, that destroyed a good chunk of downtown Oklahoma City, or not downtown, but the whole metro area. I survived that one, and narrowly, and ever since then I've had a healthy respect for Mother Nature and the awesome, again, the proper use of the word awesome, the awesome power that Mother Nature can marshal. It's just terrifying. So if you've been blessed and not had to go through an event like that, or a hurricane, or a severe earthquake or anything like that, then maybe pay it forward a little bit and donate to the Red Cross. What do you think? Well, I really didn't intend to talk a whole lot about anything other than that. I have been so immersed in Key West lately as I'm trying to finish up Pilot's Rose, the novella that's the next in the series for the John Pilate Mysteries. Really, really working hard to try to get it out before Halloween. But I thought on this particular episode, just to kind of give you an idea about Key West and why it has become a setting in the John Pilate Mysteries, I thought maybe you could indulge me in me reading a few pages about Key West out of book 2 in the John Pilate Mysteries. It's Pilate's Key, which I'm just got a copy right here. Came out in 2012. It did quite well. It's done well critically. It's sold pretty well, and it's frankly one of those books that, as an author, I continually chase to try to kind of get back to that Pilate's Key feeling for the readers. And I think we've had some success since then, but it's a favorite. And I thought, well, if you're taking the time to listen to this show, maybe I just give you a few pages out of that, starting at chapter 4, which tell you a little bit about Key West and why it holds such a fascination for me as a setting for the John Pilate Mysteries. I believe we've gone to Key West, obviously in Pilate's Key, Pilate's Ghost. Don't think he's there in Pilate's Blood, and then I think some action takes place in Pilate 7, the book of short stories in Key West. And Pilate's Rose, I'll let the cat out of the bag. There's some Key West action going on there as well. So if you'll just indulge me and just sit back, relax, and listen, I'll do my best to read a little bit here about Key West, Florida, out of Pilate's Key, Chapter 4. Key West floats 154 miles from Miami, the last in a necklace of 5 precious island gems held together by an elevated silver strand known as U.S. Highway 1. There are actually hundreds of mostly uninhabited keys, but Key Largo, Marathon, Islamorada, Big Pine Key, and Key West are the crown jewels. Built on a bedrock of coral, Key West is 2 miles wide and 4 miles long. While small, it's large enough to contain a riotous history of inflated egos, brash pirates, treasure hunters, the United States Navy, more than its fair share of bizarre happenings, and even the White House. When 16th century Spaniards arrived on the island, they found the bones of the dead left over from the Calusa and Seminole Indian battles, bleaching in the subtropical sun. The Spaniards dubbed the macabre slab of coral Cayo Hueso, the island of bones. Later, English settlers changed Cayo Hueso to Key West, something easier to pronounce in their tongue. To the literary-minded, the island is the impecunious, down-on-its-heels backdrop for one-time resident Ernest Hemingway's To Have and Have Not. History buffs know it as President Harry Truman's favorite vacation spot, home of his little White House. JFK held a summit with British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan there in 1961. Though it was Nassau, not Key West, where Kennedy is rumored to have told Macmillan he needed, quote, sex once a day, unquote, to avoid headaches. Not unkindly, some have said, quote, more than a few nuts roll downhill to Florida, unquote, in general, to Key West specifically. A spectacularly macabre example is the story of Karl Tanzler, a.k.a. Count Karl von Kossel. The German-born Key West resident developed an obsession with Maria, a Cuban beauty nearly 30 years his junior. Maria was dying of tuberculosis, a tragically common diagnosis for many in 1930s America. Tanzler tried to cure the object of his obsession, but neither depression-era medicine nor Tanzler's quack cures were up to the task of preventing his beloved's deaths from TB. A few days before Halloween 1931, Maria succumbed. Tanzler grieved for Maria, but he was far from giving up on her, even after her heart stopped beating for him or anyone else. He stole her body from her crypt, mummified it, and slept with her corpse for nearly a decade before suspicious family members discovered his gruesome living arrangement. He was arrested with the discovery, but the charges were eventually dropped. It had been reported that Tanzler committed repeated acts of necrophilia on Maria's corpse. A particularly ham-fisted attempt at controlling illegal immigration by the U.S. Border Patrol in 1982 led to Key West briefly seceding from the Union, establishing itself as the Conch Republic. The legendary Conch Rebellion lasted precisely 1 minute before the, quote, Prime Minister, unquote, surrendered to the U.S. and demanded $1 billion in foreign aid. To this day, this beautiful coral strip attracts the strange, the enchanted, the disenchanted, and those looking for a quiet life under the palms and Geiger trees. It's also a floating Casablanca, an island of conflicting agendas, artists, commerce, piracy, snowbirds, tourists, and eccentrics. A mecca where people prosper or go bankrupt, live or die. Truly, Key West remains the island of bones. Well, that was from Pilate's Key. Came out in 2012. It's just a little introduction to Key West. It's got a macabre, fascinating history, and there's so much more we haven't even gotten into that's in Pilate's Key. So if you're interested in Key West, that's a little primer for you, because I like to drop bits of Key West lore throughout that book and others. including Robert the Doll and some other interesting things that caught my eye on my repeated visits to that interesting little island that makes up America's southernmost point. Well, again, I send my best regards to my friends and colleagues in Florida. I'm sad to say that Naples, where I got married, was heavily damaged. I'm sad to say that Fort Myers Beach, where I spent a lot of time also with my family, has been taken a hit, and I've got friends who live there. They appear to be all right, but it's going to be a lot of rebuilding. And again, if you want to help, the Red Cross is a good way to start. And there's a link in the show notes. All right, that'll make up this episode. I think it's a good way to kind of keep connecting with little short bites when I don't have a guest, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And I would love it if you would give me a review on iTunes and share information about this podcast to others on Twitter or Facebook. Just put a link in there and say, hey, I listened to Mysterious Goings On, because there's often some mysterious goings on that show. Anyway, we'll kind of float back to talking about writing. We'll talk about what's going on with my next book and the book after that, and also about some aspirations I have for some other projects. We're going to bring back some old friends of the podcast soon. Won't say who, but you could probably guess if you've a long-time listener. I've got a couple of them who I definitely need to have another return visit from, and we're trying to work the scheduling out for that. It's kind of tough to get everybody scheduled and on the same page, but we'll work that out. So next time, though, I think we'll be talking about a subject that's near and dear to most writers, I think, and that's not, it sounds worse than it is, but it's the word failure. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some things that I consider failures, and how I deal with those failures, and how I plan to move on from failure, and how I have moved on from failure in previous parts of my life, whether that be in writing, or being rejected, or in publishing, or business, or personally. There's a lot of ups and downs in a life, and I'd love to talk about that. And so I hope you'll tune in for that one. That will be chapter 30, by the way. Just to double check, because this is 29. Yeah, that'll be chapter 30, and that will be on failure. But don't feel like it's going to be a downer. It's not. It's going to be a dissertation a little bit on different things that I failed at, and I'll talk to you probably about some historical people who failed and how they picked themselves back up. So if you've ever failed, you'll want to listen, because I think it might be, I'm not going to say inspirational, but it might be helpful. All right, if you want to learn more about my books, pilatescross.com, Pilates cross.com, Pilates Cross, like Pilates, cross.com, but it's not Pilates, it's pilatescross.com, and that's where my blog resides and my merchandise. You can get autographed copies of the paperbacks ordered there. If you don't want to do that, don't need an autograph, you can always go to Amazon and order them on Kindle, or order the paperbacks there. Also on Barnes & Noble, and just about any place else that ebooks and paperbacks are sold, you're going to find them, including Lulu. The first 4 books are on Lulu. Pilot 7, the latest book, is only available on Amazon in paperback. So anyway, if you have any questions about that, feel free to give me a shout. You can find me on Twitter at @A_Greenwood. You can also find me on Instagram at AlexGNKC. I think that's it. It's pretty tough to not find me. I'm on a lot of social media, and of course, don't forget the Pilates Cross the John Pilate Mysteries webpage on Facebook. It's pretty simple to find the John Pilate Mysteries Facebook. Just plug in John Pilate Mysteries, and you will find the Facebook page. Please like it and follow it and comment and let me know what you think. All right, until next time, I am J. Alexander Greenwood. You can call me Al, and let's all convene back here next time. We'll try and get this next episode up in about a week or so. All right. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, keep reading.
It's a great time to get a great deal on a new car when you get approved for an auto loan from PenFed. Our Powered by True car rates are as low as 1.39% APR on new vehicles. Finance for a longer term to lower your monthly bill, plus take up to 60 days to schedule your first payment. Join PenFed, and together we'll keep you moving forward. Anyone can apply. Visit PenFed.org/auto or call 1-800-247-5626. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
At Chewy, we know every moment is made even better with our pets. And we believe those moments don't have to cost more money. So you can save on your dog's favorite food. Tasty treats for your cat's late night snacks. Chewy even has prescriptions to keep your pets healthy so you can share more moments together. Like walks in the park, we've got leashes and collars. And those rainy days in, there's toys to keep them busy. Get everything you need for your pets, all delivered right to your door. Save 30% on your first auto ship order up to $20. Visit Chewy.com today.